You're watching The Straight Pipes, and we're gonna find out if this is the best three-row family car. Hello, Straight Pipers, it is me, Yuri, doing a solo review of the 2025 Mazda CX-90 as a family car because I just had my second kid, I have a dog, and I own a CX-5 right now, so it's the perfect chance to see if I should upgrade to this. So the thing we need the most in a family car is a three-row because I have a dog and two kids. We want to throw the dog in the very back if we go on a road trip because we don't want the dog just chilling in the middle because then they kind of become a projectile if there's an accident. Then, a 360 camera is a must for my wife. She absolutely loves a 360 camera and loves when mirrors fold in on cars when you lock the door. Luckily, this has both. And then, this has captain's chairs. You can also get a CX-90 with a bench seat, but captain's is nice because then you can go through the middle to get to the back. And I was looking at minivans as well as SUVs. Mazda unfortunately does not make a minivan, and since we're already in the Mazda family, my wife knows how to use all this infotainment stuff and she likes it, this is a good place to start. The competition for this, technically, the Toyota Grand Highlander, the Hyundai Palisade, the Kia Telluride, the Nissan Pathfinder, the Acura MDX, the Lexus TX, Honda Pilot, Subaru Ascent, Ford Explorer, Tesla Model X, and then for minivans, we got the Kia Carnival, the Toyota Sienna, the Honda Odyssey, the Chrysler Pacifica, and the Volkswagen ID Buzz. I think that's pretty much the main competition, which we will address at the very end, which ones are better or worse, or what we're thinking about each one. So the first thing we need to look into about this is how it works for a family car. We got our two seats right here. We've got our Britax seats. We've got a rear-facing one, and we have a convertible one, which is front-facing in the middle row. The front-facing one uses the seat belt with the click-tight system, so once we've got that sorted in there, we can't slide it back and forth, but the rear-facing one uses click-tight with the seat belt or with UAS, so we've got that set up with UAS so we can slide it forward and back. And with that sliding forward and back, it makes it a little easier to navigate your way into the very back seat if your child needs to do that, or if your dog needs to do that, or if you need to get to the back seat for some reason. What's nice about this setup is my baby is 3 weeks old. So when my wife was driving the car, I wanted to sit in the very, very back, which I did fit at 5'8", so I could watch my baby, look at his little face, make sure he's breathing, because that's the kind of stuff that I'm paranoid about. I didn't want to remove this front-facing seat to do that, which is why it was nice that I could fit in the very back row and that there was a pass-through through the middle. If it was a bench seat, it would be a lot trickier to get back there because I'd have to like fold forward the baby side when it's not clicked in and then have someone take the seat out so I could fold my way and get out. Do you know what I mean? So that worked nice. And then the next important thing is, can you fit your stroller for your child seat in the trunk? A lot of these three rows are cheater three rows. They don't have too much room back there. This one will just fit the Britax stroller for this Britax car seat. I used to have an Up-A-Baby car seat for my first baby. I still have the stroller to that. I tried to get that stroller in the back of this. It doesn't fit. So that's one of the things too. You can be buying a car and then realize, oh, I need to change my whole baby transportation system because it just doesn't fit in the trunk that I bought. But it does fit carry-ons back there nicely. There is a good amount of room in the very back of the CX-90 compared to other things. Like I think this has more room than the Kia Telluride and the Palisade, but like so much less room than a minivan, which like kind of makes me want to have a minivan more. And then some people say, you know, what if you want to sit next to the baby? Okay. And then you put the front-facing car seat in the very back row. Okay. And then you want to put the stroller, but you just fold the seat down. But then if you get into an accident, that stroller is right next to your front-facing toddler. So if you get into an accident, it could become a projectile and get them. So that's why it's nice to have a separate trunk space, and like kind of why I like big trunks in three rows or big minivan trunks. And I'm pretty sure if the headrest touches this, that's not good either. And these aren't removable, so you probably shouldn't be putting a front-facing seat like this in the back anyways, am I right? Even though we do have the rear tether for it. Now to the trunk. Unlike my CX-5, this has a close button and a lock button up there. My CX-5 only has the close button, which sucks because you click that close and then you have to wait for it to go all the way down before you can lock. And if you lock too early, it goes beep, 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 beep. Nobody likes that. It's annoying. They fixed it in this, so that's nice to have. And then you also have kick to open back there, and underneath the thing is where you've got your charging cable, because we are in the PHEV right now. This also comes in an inline 6. We will talk about the motor stuff later. And then here's a gratuitous shot of the room in the back with the back seats all the way down, which turns it pretty much into a CX-70, which is just a CX-90 with a different front bumper, different rear bumper, different special color, and no third row. And now with all the seats folded down. And I guess I gotta rewind back to sitting back there. We do have cup holders, we do have USB-C, and then if you're sitting in this row, it is comfortable. We do have armrests, and we got climate control back here. We can control our rear climate from up here as well. It is very easy to use and it's nice, but there is no rear view monitor, like a 360 camera or something to watch the kids back there like you do in, I think I don't know if it was Odyssey Carnival, but I know the Pacifica had it. So that part kind of sucks. And I can't really throw a mirror on anything to see my newborn because there's nowhere to put it. So I know my brother had like a Amazon camera thing that you set up, so you could just like put the little camera down there, screen there, and watch it. I think you'd have to get something like that if you don't have a bench in the middle, which I think is fine. Probably better, because then a mirror can also become a projectile if it's not fastened correctly and if you get into an accident. Other good things with the back row, we do have built-in baby shades. They are not electronic, you manually have to do it, but you can have that built in.
This river goes up, but don't forget to subscribe to the poop pipes, Daddy.
No! Which is great. And then we do have this big moonroof, which is really nice to have and is really nice to close so that if the baby needs to sleep, they can sleep easier. I guess if you had like a Model Y or something, or some Teslas with the glass roof, you know, they get darker, but they're not dark. It's still bright. And I guess also the ID Buzz, right? The ID Buzz, which I love so much. My car of the year last year, you know, it's only got that one that's a prismatic, telematic, something matic. You know, the one that disappears and lights up when you click the button. And then unlike many of my favorite minivans, no rear entertainment here. No TV screens, no option for TV screens, no flip down like the Odyssey. You know, it's a CX-90. I don't really expect that. That's fine. I did end up having to lift my armrest and slide my phone here against the back of my neck for my kid to watch when she was having a freak out, which I guess if there was an accident, that would only hit me in the neck. It wouldn't fly back and hit her because these bars. Probably a bad idea, but that is something I did do this week to keep my kid calm. The dentist told her she's got to stop sucking her thumb. So it's been a little bit of a rough week, you know, getting used to that and figuring that out for her. So shout out my little almost 4-year-old. So now if we move over to the doors, getting in and out for the back. But before the doors, let's look at these wheels. What is it outside? It's winter right now. What would be the Continental recommended tire for a family SUV? It would be the Viking Contact 7, which is what I have on my CX-5. It's what I have for all of my family members' cars. My brother's got that on his CR-V for driving safe in winter. Hit the link below and look up which Continental winter tire is perfect for your family car. And then I did see a CX-70 in a Canadian Tire parking lot in that cool bronze color that I reviewed when I went to Palm Springs. And yeah, that's like the best color ever. And it sucks that you can't get that on the CX-90, but you can get like a dark burgundy. And then this blue is kind of dark. You can get like crystal silver or metallic. But then also I don't think you can get matching fender flares on the PHEV version. It's like, it's not the best looking of this CX-90 plug-in hybrid inline 6 or the CX-70s. I think CX-70 wins the looks for sure. Back to the doors. Mazda doesn't have a minivan, so you can't get sliding doors. Sliding doors for family stuff is the dream. I hate risking hitting my door against other cars and stuff and my kids' fingers while the door is moving in and out while she's trying to climb in. Not good. This has touch to open, proximity, whatever. You put your hand there, it unlocks, cool. But only in the front. And then you can touch to lock, which is nice. Not a hard button like my CX-5, but only in the front. And that sucks because sometimes, you know, you close the back door and then every time you have to lean forward to the front to close it. Like, come on. But what this does have is a setting in the settings where when you walk away, it'll automatically lock. Fun thing about that, in the first 3 days that I drove it, it pretty much didn't work 2 times each day. Okay, I walked away. This is the 3rd time that it is not locked after walking away. So, like, you're always gonna have to double check and see if the mirrors are folding in. I can't believe that the feature doesn't work consistently every time. That part really sucks. And how about a little bit of more stuff that's good and sucks? This has a remote start through the app. My Mazda CX-5 does not have that, does not have an option. You'd have to install an aftermarket remote starter, which all the dealership seems to be out of parts for. So this you can remote start through the app. The part that sucks, besides, it's subscription based, and once it's done, you're gonna have to pay monthly, it wouldn't work for me. It just kept erroring out. So it's like, okay, what's the point? I can't use it anyways. I have to get out to the car and start it and hope someone doesn't take it off my driveway when it's like, warming up in winter. So yeah, I'm sure there's a workaround, but like, why wouldn't it just work? That doesn't work. The key fob thing doesn't work. And there's one more thing that doesn't work, but I'll talk about that later because it has to do with the engine. So overall, the back seat room for 2 kids and a dog, pretty good. You can really get to the back row with captain chairs. I prefer captain chairs, but it's a little tight. It's not as flexible as I like. Like Honda Odyssey's got those like magic seats that go left and right. That is like the most perfect setup with that Honda Odyssey. And then it's got the flip down screen. The Pacifica had the camera. There's a lot of things that this doesn't have, but if you hate the idea of a minivan, I think you'd be very happy with this because it isn't the least convenient. It's pretty good. There's just enough room for most of the stuff you need to do with 2 kids and a dog. Now, more importantly for drivers, is up front comfortable? We have nice seats up here. They've got forward and back only lumbar, which I think is a miss. I think it should be up down as well. I gotta point out that this little thong strip does not feel thongy at all in the CX-90 or CX-70 compared to how thongy it feels in the CX-50s, so that's good. We do not have any massage, that's okay, but the seats are comfortable. My wife, postpartum after birth, was very, very happy sitting in these seats, sitting in the back seats, comfortable in all the seats all around, and that's good. She was very uncomfortable in the Nissan Rogue that we had for our first child as our family car loaner. So that's good about Mazdas. I know Jacob doesn't totally love Mazda seats, but my family seems to like them. And I guess everyone is different sizes, so there's that. This does have seat presets, which is very important for sharing a car with your spouse. However, my wife and I are pretty much the same height. I'm an inch taller. So we don't really change the seating position. It kind of just stays the way it is, which is actually pretty convenient until she wears high heels when we go out. And then she's 2 inches taller than me, and then I'm just another little short king, which is okay, short king life. At least they fit in me out as nicely. As for seating position while road tripping, I got both elbows on the armrest and my hands can be on the wheel very, very comfortably, which is nice. We do have all hard button climates, which is good. A lot of companies getting away from that. That's the main reason why I would never consider the Kia Carnival, is because they've got that capacitive button climate that also switches between your radio and car settings, which is the dumbest thing in the freaking world, and I hate it. But I guess maybe the older Carnival is better, because even though it was all touch buttons on the screen, at least it didn't have that dumb switching thing. So maybe I should look at old Carnivals. And what's nice with the hard button climate is that you can turn on your heated steering wheel and your heated seat without even looking at it by clicking those 2 buttons. They're just right there on the left. Look, I got it on without taking my eyes off the road. So much better than so many other manufacturers have weird through the infotainment kind of stuff. So then our infotainment screen, it is nice and up high in our line of sight, unlike other weird ones that have it I think the Subaru Ascent will have it super low and you gotta look real far down. And it's all controlled with this rotary dial, which is weird, I get it. But if you're used to it, it's pretty good. The only thing I think this rotary dial system is really bad for is just controlling radio stations that aren't set as presets. Everything else is great because you got wired or wireless CarPlay, which you can set up very easily. And you just hold the home button and that'll toggle you from your CarPlay screen to your home screen and back. And you can pretty much always use the rotary dial to get to wherever you need on CarPlay without taking your eyes off the road. You just spin it all the way to the right and you'll in maps, you'll get to the zoom in, zoom out, or you can easily see that if you scroll it, you're at the microphone part. And then with CarPlay, you can enable it through the infotainment that you can make it touch finally. So say you just want to click that button to answer that call, you can do that, but you can't touch the rest of the infotainment, but you can do it while driving in the Mazdas now. Now, one bad thing about that, my infotainment, at least twice a day, decides that even though I'm plugged in, it's grayed out. So I have to unplug it or plug it back in or go to the right and click and scroll down to Yuri's iPhone. So another, as Rady would say, zonk for the CX-90, not working perfect. Lots of little bugs I've unfortunately been finding. And there's one more big one at the end. Sound system. It's a Bose system. I have found it to be very good. I am not the most in tune with how perfect an audio system is, but I find absolutely nothing wrong with it and better than a lot of other sound systems. So shout out Mazda there. And now to some nerdy stuff about the infotainment that Jacob probably wouldn't let me go deep into. We click our home button, we can go down to our settings. Let's pull over, park the car, and actually dig through everything we have down there, because there's so much good stuff to customize every way that this car works that a lot of other manufacturers maybe don't have, or have a lot more hidden in their infotainment than this. All right, let's dig into it. So if we go down to settings, we got EV settings, in-vehicle display, sound settings, safety settings, vehicle settings. Let's start with safety settings. Driver assistance settings. We can have our cruise control, cancellation alert audible. We can also set it up as a steering wheel vibration. We have our radar cruise control setting here. Our traffic sign speed limit assist, that we can make it go like 10 kilometers over, and that's fine. We can adjust how much it'll go. I guess if the offset is a little wrong, say like maybe everyone goes 5 over. Audible cruise control information, speed limit sign alert. I like that because we've got a visual one, so that if you're slightly going over the speed limit, it'll kind of glow orange, so you know, because there are a lot of speed cameras in Canada, in Toronto these days, around school zones, which I think is a good thing. I don't want people speeding next to like where my kid goes to school or something, so that's good. Or you could turn that off if you hate it. And then we've got our safety alerts. Front cross traffic alert. That is something nice to have, especially, you know, you're pulling off in out of the school parking lot and a kid runs out, you're good. We have rear cross traffic alert, which is also very good if you're backing out of stuff, especially in my driveway where I back out, there's a fence. So if I can't see left and right, that's nice to have, but there is a good thing in this infotainment about that. Lane departure system, steering wheel vibration instead of a sound. That's what I set it to, because I think the sound's a little annoying, because, you know, sometimes I drift more than I'd like. And we got blind spot monitoring, which is great. It shows up in our head-up display as well to know. I love a proper beeping blind spot monitoring system. It's really good. And then let's go to collision avoidance. Big one. Lane keep assist, obviously we like that. Smart brake support, we love that stuff. You know, front collision, doot, 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 doot. Especially for your spouse or whatever. Say your spouse isn't as good of a driver as you, it's nice to know that they have that. Or say you have like older parents who are driving this car, being able to set that for them, because the older you get, the less sharp you are. Even I sometimes maybe feel like I'm less sharp than I was 5 years ago, but maybe it's in my head. Maybe I'm just exhausted from the lack of sleep because of a newborn. Driver monitor. So we actually have a little thing there that keeps an eye on you. If you look away too long, it tells you beep, 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 eyes back on the road. Might be annoying, but it is nice to stop you from being distracted. View monitor. Okay, we can set up our priority view at startup. So when I start my car, I have that on. It'll automatically go to the 360 camera. So I'll see what's around me, which is good. Because especially when you're at a school zone too, get in your car, if a little kid runs in front and they're ducking, which probably won't happen, but you never know, at least it's up on the screen, because, you know, these hoods are pretty tall these days. And then priority view. I put front wide, you can do front, side, whatever. You can set that, that's nice. Automatic front view display, dynamic guidelines. The guidelines are always nice. And our parking sensors. Love having parking sensors. I love the beeping. It's a good way to know if you're gonna hit something or getting too close. And then on my CX-5, all those buttons were here on the left, which your parking sensor button still is, but now your parking camera button is here to the left of the shifter. Then what's nice about that is, say I'm in drive, I put on my 360 camera, I can click down, and then I can have the more zoomed in view or the wider view. And what I like about that is when I'm backing up out of my driveway, I can see fully left and right because there's a fence that's there. So if a kid comes running out, and there's a lot of kids in my area, while I'm backing out, I'll be able to see them earlier. If it was just zoomed in like this view, it would be much harder to see full left and right. And in the Ford Explorer we were recently in, you'd have to change that every single time to be the full wide view. This stays in that view. And then the Subaru Forester we drove, you couldn't even get like the 360 camera and the rear wide camera because it was that dumb, tall, vertical infotainment. This is all so much better. So shout out Mazda there. And then pedal misuse alert, you know, we keep that on for launch controls or off. Vehicle settings. Paddle shift logic, you know, you can keep it so that when you shift, it stays in manual mode. We don't need that. We're not going to be shifting this thing all crazy. Doors, this is a good one. Hands-free lift gate, so you can kick to open. We like that. Automatic door locks, drive. Okay, this I had to set up. Lock while driving, unlock and park. Because when I first got it, it wasn't unlock and park, so I'd have to like manually open the door and unlock it to get out of the back seat. It's nice that you can customize all of this stuff here. The relock wait time, you can't turn it off, so I put it to the longest time possible. And then keyless auto lock, that's the one that hasn't been working every single time, which is a little disappointing. But I don't know, I just don't know why. I don't know why. And we got a beep. We can make a quieter beep, which is nice, or have it off. So much better than a car that honks every time you lock the door. You know, you're like quietly getting into your house at night, your kid's sleeping, and all of a sudden you hear the car go. I don't need that. I just need that nice electronic subtle beep. And my keyless unlock mode, all doors. So when I put my hand there, all the doors unlock. Now open, unlock to get to the back seat. And then, you know, the rest of the stuff, folding mirrors, turn signals, rear window defogger, occupant comfort. What's that one? Driver's seat temperature. Yeah. Heated steering wheel. Yeah, you know what? I didn't go to that part, but I like that all that stuff turns on. Now you don't even have to not look. You can just have it turn on automatically. That's all with this stuff. The rest, you know, are you going to be using the music stuff? It's got rewinding, it's got tune mix, which is nice, but it is so difficult to use that you pretty much need to set everything up to this favorites button down at the bottom, and then when you click it, then you can scroll through and see all this stuff, you know, everything you set as a favorite. It is very, very difficult to use. Like I have a very hard time setting us all up for my favorites and stuff. You can't really do it while driving. So you gotta really make sure you know what you're doing. So like if I want to delete, I accidentally hit saved Sirius XMU and Disney hits multiple times. Now delete it. And a lot of the stuff you can't do while driving anyway, so that's good. All right, back to driving. And as we navigate this parking lot we've rolled up into, let's come to a stop and put the car in park with this weird shifter that goes up and to the left. You know, a little weird. My wife drove it around, got used to it very quickly, so that's nice. And next to that, we have our cup holders to the right, and they pass. We got a small coffee. Pass perfectly, and what's nice is they're not behind the shifter anymore, so I don't need to zooch my wrist to get it out like I do on the CX-5. It's nice to see the improvements they've made over the car that I currently drive, so upgrading to this would be a lot more convenient in a lot of ways. Does it pass the visor test? 3, 2, 1. It does pass, and the reason we know it does pass was because the Mazda team reached out to us. They're like, you have a video of cars passing the visor test, right? We want our car to pass the visor test, and we need to show this to Japan so they see why it's important, and they did it. So there's proof that you guys watching us has changed things for the better, because you get sliding visors now in your Mazda CX-5s, CX-90s, maybe the CX-5s, maybe the new ones. I'd have to check. And then as for driving stuff, we have adaptive cruise lane centering. It works really nice. It's got the eye that watches you. It's not like super crazy, you just can keep your hands on the wheel, but it is nice. It's a good feature to have. And then as for driving it around, it definitely feels pretty good. It's definitely got dad power. So if I floor it in normal mode, it's not slow at all, not lightning. I think it's very similar to the inline six. So for the horsepower and torque, this has 323 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque from a 2.5 e-Sky Active, and the inline six has 340 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque from a 3.3 liter e-Sky Active G with M hybrid boost. Both have 8-speed automatics and both are all-wheel drive. I'm not doing any paddle shifting because it doesn't feel amazing to do it. It's not a sporty car. I don't even think we did it in the inline six, or we really felt like we needed to in the inline six. But this is the plug-in hybrid, right? It's supposed to have 42 kilometers of all-electric range from a 17.8 kilowatt-hour battery. I tried to plug it in my house where I charge Mach-E, where I charge a lot of electric vehicles, and my GFI plug that's put on the outside of my house, and it popped it. Reset it every single time. So I could not charge this thing, so I couldn't drive it in electric. and I couldn't really take advantage of the fuel efficiency. This thing is rated at 9.4 liters per 100 kilometers combined. Right now, I'm getting 12 liters per 100 kilometers combined. Hey, turns out with a little more highway driving, I got it down to 10.6 liters per 100 kilometers. And it just sucks because I don't want to spend another like $3,000 upgrading my electrical system in my house and then putting in an electrical charger, because I just gotta upgrade to 240. I would just want this as a, plug it in where I have it. When I did graphic design, when I did websites back in the day in 2009-ish, they always told you can make a great website, but it has to work in the worst web browser, Internet Explorer. Because if it doesn't work there, what's the point? This charger doesn't work in the worst web browser in real life, which happens to be the charging plug outside of my house. But the Mach-E will charge in there. So like, Mazda, you got some work to do there. That is my last final flaw with this car, was that I just couldn't charge it. Hey, so this just happened to the car while I'm sitting in the parking lot filming the interiors. So maybe you don't get the plug-in hybrid. So I would have to go for the inline six if I did like this. So go to tsp.truecar.com, check out inline sixes, PHEVs, test them out at your house first to make sure they would work, or even like maybe an old CX-9. Because CX-9 is kind of like the CX-90, but also very different. And while we're speaking about the engine, we should pop the hood and see if it has a dipstick. It does have a dipstick. It passes the dipstick test. And the TotalEnergies recommended oil for your Mazda CX-90 would be the TotalEnergies Quartz 9000 Extra Future FGC 0W20. Always follow your manufacturer recommended guidelines. And when I took my Mazda CX-5 for an oil change recently at the Mazda dealership, I asked them, I'm like, can I bring my own oil? They're like, sure. Brought my own TotalEnergies that they said was the required synthetic 0W30. And I had them put that in, and it all worked out great. Saved myself $50 on an oil change at the dealership. And that way, I've got records of oil changes at the dealership, so if my 7-year extended warranty ever needs to be used for engine stuff, they have a record there. That's why I don't do my own oil changes at home for my warranted new cars. And if you made it this far in the video, I'd love for you to hit subscribe or thumbs up. Because if you made it this far in the video, then somehow you are relating to what I'm saying and actually into looking for family cars or the CX-90. Okay, and then as for the suspension, driving around over bumps, I would say slightly firmer than as comfortable as I'd want it, but also still very, very comfortable. Like, it is, I guess, the firmer side of the comfortable and good scale. You know what I mean? Because it's not firm, but it's also not like floating on a cloud Maybach style. And then I guess other fun stuff about this engine, it can tow 3,500 pounds. And I did use the CX-70 to tow my Mazda Miata, my $1 Mazda Miata, all the way back from Ottawa, and that worked really well. It didn't feel sluggish, didn't feel like I was underpowered at all. So shout out towing Mazdas with Mazdas. And now for what Yuri always says is the most important thing about a plug-in or hybrid vehicle. Is the brake pedal weird? Yes, a little bit weird, but you can fix that if you go into your settings, change the brake pedal regen to low instead of high. Then I found it felt completely normal. So make sure you do that setting if you drive a CX-90 or CX-70 PHEV and the brake pedal feels weird. So the problem was solved. That is not a zonk. Zonk! Oh man, I wish we came up with zonk instead of radio. That's such a good one. And then yeah, to reiterate, my wife did drive this around after driving the CX-5 as her main car for the last couple of years, and she didn't find this weird at all. She found the brake pedal weird, but that was before I switched it over. So yeah, it's a nice, easy, simple car to drive. She loved the 360 camera, loved all that stuff, didn't mind the shifter. I am happy that my wife enjoyed driving it. And then as for drive modes, we've got Sport, Normal, EV, and Off-Road. EV is grayed out because, you know, I have no battery power. But I think there's a launch control mode, so we're going to launch it. Because I did brake boost it, and then all of a sudden after brake boost it for a while, I see the red start glowing. And I'm going to turn traction all the way off with this button on the left. I think it's just one click. And we'll see if that helps me for my launch. All right, brake boost. Nah, it doesn't really rev up, but it does say boost. Pulls hard, okay. So there is no launch control, but It does launch pretty well. Brake boosting it, you know, it's okay. You'll never use it. Don't worry about it. Let's take it out of sport mode. Back to normal. And then we already mentioned the looks. CX-90 has slightly different bumpers, slightly different colors. I think this looks all right. My wife did mention that she loves that her CX-5 is a bright red because it's easy to find in a parking lot, so she doesn't like this blue color. So if I was to get a CX-70 and 690, I guess I'd probably still get Crystal Sol Red. They have a double Crystal Sol Red metallic house or something. But yeah, not the best color options, especially compared to the CX-70. And then also with the cladding, it's like not color matched on PHEV, but it is on inline. But then CX-70, I think you can get color matched on both. All of the stuff is weird. I think they should all be color matched. And then as for gauge cluster, we do have a full digital gauge cluster, slightly customizable. We do have the speed in the middle, so if you don't like the head-up display, we can use that, which is nice. It'll show you how much your charge and regeneration and drive power and what's going on. So that is all good. And when you click your radar cruise, it changes to like a, I guess, assistant kind of view. So all that stuff, very, very nice. So I feel like that's pretty much everything about using the CX-90 as a family car. If you got 2 kids, dog, with child seats, all the different things that you could or could not have to do with it. I think it's time we get to the price. So the 25 Mazda CX-90 starts at 54,900 Canadian for the plug-in GS. And this one, the plug-in GT, is 64,600 Canadian, which is pretty expensive, but there is a lot of expensive minivans and everything out there. Everything 3-row is pretty much around that price. So like overall, I think it is a good step up from a CX-5, but it's not, I think, my perfect pick because I want sliding doors. And I think since it's hard to charge in my house without upgrading my electrical system, I don't really want a plug-in hybrid. And then I really like minivans. I don't feel like I need all-wheel drive. But the Honda Odyssey, which I really loved with the Magic seats and the VTEC, doesn't have 360 cameras in the latest 2025, and I doubt the 2026 one will have it either. So that's like a total fail, total miss by Honda. Unbelievably disappointed in them. The Carnival 360 camera, that one's very nice. It has a hybrid version as well, but I cannot, in good conscience, buy anything with that really bad volume and climate control switcher thing. Like that is a big no. We cannot support companies that do stuff like that, in my opinion. Sienna, I think the new one is pretty cool. It has a Google Automotive, Android Automotive, which would be nice. Probably better cameras and stuff than the bronze one that I solo reviewed on these pretty much same roads. The only thing is, I think there's a huge wait list. They're expensive. And then high theft in Toronto. There's also high theft for Hondas too, which sucks. Don't think they're really stealing Kias. I know Mazdas are like very low theft in Toronto, which is nice because like the last thing I need is my wife having to worry about like getting robbed for her car at the mall. There's people doing like fake accidents and then you get out and then they try to rob you, especially if you have a kid with you. And then I don't want like people trying to rob my house as well because I have a car there. Like that's why like there's no way I'd ever get a Range Rover or like an Escalade or anything like that, right? Because it's like theft central. Dude, they like held up one of the Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs, at gunpoint to get his Range Rover. And then like, you know, they're not even like keeping these guys in jail once they get arrested. And then as for minivans, I do really like the ID Buzz. That was my favorite car of the year last year. Even though it's electric, I think I could try having an electric car for that. I don't really take many road trips except for going to Ottawa like a couple times a year, which, you know, I could struggle through that. I think I would even be willing to upgrade my electrical system, put in a charger, everything, because of how good it looks. Like that ID Buzz made me so happy looking at it. Like the best looking minivan ever. But I don't want to pay like $90,000 for something that especially is going to go way down in price because it's battery instead of like a gas-powered car. You know, if the battery deteriorates, then what's it worth, right? Like look at Matt Farah buying Taycons. He's talking about that all the time in his podcast, right? Like it's too risky. I'm not that rich for like just willy-nilly buying an ID Buzz for $90K. So now other cars. I don't like the idea of a Tesla Model X because even though, you know, it is a very cool car with the doors that are going up. That company, the guy who runs it right now, inauguration happened a couple days ago. Not the best, you know, not really, not right now. Explorer ST, that was really nice, but it was too firm. I think the Explorer Platinum might be a good option, so I'm excited to test that out because I pretty much loved everything about that. and it had a lot of trunk room as well, even though it's not a minivan. And then the MDX, high theft, no captain's chairs. Grand Highlander, high theft. Also Honda Pilot, high theft. And that's in Toronto. Maybe where you live, there's no high theft, but where I live, there is, and no one's doing anything about it. So not the cops, not the Port Authority, not the manufacturers. So there's really no point of giving money to companies that are high theft in your area, right? You know what I mean? And that's a good thing about the ID Buzz. People don't really steal electric cars because probably the countries that they end up at don't really have the best charging infrastructure, especially when you see the cars that get stolen being shipped around on wooden rafts down a river. You know, you're like, okay, well, if you're using a wooden raft to get the car somewhere, you probably don't have good level 2 charging for this ID Buzz. Subaru Ascent, you know, that's okay, but I don't like the infotainment screen, you know, that vertical, blah, blah, blah. I don't like any of that stuff. And then also I'm still a little bitter about the motor blowing in my brother's Forester that I bought from him and then had to scrap. So not into Subaru right now. We also have the Palisade and the Telluride, which are good options. A little slow though, kind of like eh. And then they made the Telluride look less good than the first version. And then those had like very little room behind the third row, so eh. And then there's also the Nissan Pathfinder and the Outlander. So Pathfinder, my brother had that as his first child car, and that worked really well. They had 1 kid, 1 dog, but now it's like 2 kids, 1 dog. So that would be slightly different. I just like, I don't know, not like that into Nissan right now. I feel like that company's not like the best. So I'm like, not sure. And then also like the Outlander, that's plug-in hybrid. I think I really like that. I would much more consider that over a Pathfinder. And I think the 25 is getting Google Automotive, so I'm excited to try that out. But then still, like, it's not like full big 3-row, still not a minivan. And then I think that just leaves me at the Pacifica. They are expensive. I was looking them up recently, and man, I wish we had a true car in Canada so we could have more options, because like looking on like Auto Trader and stuff, it's kind of like, ugh. But I think that might be the best bet. Like I've heard maybe Chrysler's not the most reliable, but if they're low theft, that's good. It's got all the cool features. That last one we drove when I had my first child, I loved it. It had that 360 camera, nice seats, had the screens that pop up with infotainment and stuff like that. Lots of room behind the back row. Like, maybe I should just get a Pacifica. When I was a kid, my dad had a Plymouth Voyager. So Chrysler runs in my family. You know how much I love that 3.5 V6? Got it in the Prowler. You know, I like that motor, you know, a bit, whatever. I should just look into it. Do Chrysler Pacificas get stolen a lot in Toronto? How reliable are they? Which ones have the screen that pops up? I think that's the best bet if I'm not willing to spend $90K on an ID Buzz and install an electric charger. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong, what aspects I missed out on, what aspects you would consider in a 3-row family vehicle. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed Jacob's Porsche 911 review in Spain and whatever other stuff we do together next. I think Macan EV is coming up, should be okay too, I think. Bye.